School district.
Fire marshal may be here. Gary, are you ready?
I'm ready. Well, I wouldn't bring it down yet.
Oh, okay.
We were going to bring it down just before the slideshow.
Leanne Smith is the president of the board of the Friends and Sisters Library.
And Sue Stafford is a member and does magic. So.
On behalf of the Friends, I want to welcome you here today. I think you're here for a real treat, and it looks like a lot of you think so. The speaker series, the Diane Jacobsen speaker series, is named for an educator who was in Sisters for a number of years and was very, very beloved by a lot of people and a really, really good educator. So when she died, the Friends decided that they should establish this speaker series in her honor. And so that's why it is called the Diane Jacobsen Speaker Series, which is nice because it brings her to mind every year for us. And we usually have 4 speakers on a variety of topics. We have this one and then we have 2 more after this. If you enjoy today's presentation and everything else that the library has to offer, we encourage you to join the Friends of the Sisters Library. You don't get a sweatshirt, you don't get anything, you don't get a cup, you don't get anything. You just get the pleasure of knowing that for $12 a year, you're helping to support the work that the library does. And I think we here as Sisters have the best library in the Deschutes system. It's a special, special place. So for $12, you can be a part of the action. Our speaker today is Gary Albertson, who I'm sure most of you are very familiar with. He's a very well-known fine art landscape photographer who has lived in Camp Sherman, my favorite place in the world, for a long time, around 20 years, Gary?
Since 1999.
Yeah, okay. Working toward 20 years. And his images that you're seeing here, and you have seen many, many other places, are of the Metolius Basin and basically a lot of Central Oregon, are amazing photographs. They always have been from the beginning. And they're, you know, I look at them, I just want to step into them. Gary has reached a point in his life where life has handed him something that he hadn't counted on. And due to a very rare type of glaucoma, he is losing his eyesight. And right now, it's pretty limited. You've got a little bit in each eye, but peripherally, not right down the middle. So if he wants to even get any idea, he has to turn his head so that he can see where he's going. And the way Gary gets around is absolutely amazing. With this eye condition, you would think that he would go, oh, woe is me, I'm a photographer, I'm not going to be able to do this anymore. But just the opposite has happened. And Gary told me when I was interviewing him how he views his blindness as a gift. And that takes a big person to be able to say that your blindness is a gift. But in the work that Gary now does, you can see that he is so in love with and so in tune with the places that he photographs that he almost knows what it looks like anyway. And so he sets up his camera and he makes all the adjustments. I watched him do all this and I thought, I have a point and shoot and I can't get a picture and I have 2 good eyes. So it's an amazing process to watch, and I felt very, very honored to be able to walk with Gary along the river and not worry about it. He just strides right out, you know. I just expected he's going to trip on a tree root, and he didn't. He knows where they all are. Gary said to me when we were doing the interview that he used to be a real aloof guy who kind of stood on the edges of groups, and with his blindness, he has had to learn to ask for help and to accept help. And a lot of people have, as he said, come out of the woodwork to be of a great deal of help. And just to do today's program, Gary's team stepped up, and there's a lot of people involved. We've got Sean, I'm going to have to read these names. Sean Kirkby over here, who's from Portland, but he has the jazz program that's on our local radio station, and he worked for OPB for years and for the Portland jazz station. Dennis and Helen Schmidling, of course, we all know, are the managers of Gary's Gallery, and very good friends and do a lot to be of assistance to Gary. Curtis Abbott, another one of our really well-known photographers, does a lot of technical work.
Curtis, where are you?
He's right there.
Yeah, okay.
And Dennis and Curtis work together. Gary takes the photograph. He tells them kind of what his idea is of what he wants this to look like. Dennis and Curtis go to work for him and do some of the technical stuff, some of the adjustments in the color and that kind of stuff. And then Curtis has, for those of you in the know, an Epson 9900 44-inch wide printer that he prints these lovely things on. And of course, Helen does everything that needs to be done. Scott, his neighbor, and I don't know Scott's last name, brought the bike that Gary rides in. He didn't ride that in from Camp Sherman today. They brought that in. And John Huntsberger, who is his neighbor, I understand, provides a lot of transportation for Gary and a lot of help. And so I am more than pleased to present Gary today. I have looked forward to this presentation ever since I wrote the article on him. I think we're in for a real treat. Gary, you're on.
Well, first of all, this is very odd for me because what I'm used to you looking at that, not at me. And I'm used to being in the audience. I'm not, and viewing it with people because I truly enjoy, my photographs to me are like children and I take it very personally and I become romanced by my own images. So, but first, I want to explain a little bit about my eyesight. Where if I look over here, these people aren't sitting there anymore. They've left the room. There's nothing there. There's no chairs. There's nothing there, period. But what's odd is the light in the room, since it's all very diffused in the target of my eyesight. So I really see nothing there. I think I see a foot right there. And now if I look over here, now my right eye has less sight in, my left eye better, but it's all just peripheral. Now I can tell now these people that were sitting here left the room, and now they're sitting over here. And so, it's a game what I play. I try and, rather than I laugh so much more than I ever used to. Now when I trip and fall, because I do that a lot, I laugh. And I never did that before. And it's been quite a change for me, and I've enjoyed it. You could say I've enjoyed going blind, because I've allowed myself to find the humor in things. I'm profoundly inventive. I'm always fixing something to adapt myself to my world now. And I work very hard on memorizing things because my short-term memory is better than it's ever been. Because I'm forced to, and it's like the synapses of my brain have now connected. I'm remembering names better than I ever have. I'm certainly remembering voices. That's all. I can't see anyone's face anymore, which I miss that. I miss seeing someone's eyes, but I can't. Now I hear you could say the humming of the bones. I hear people's joy, their madness, their sadness through the tone of their voice, and I've enjoyed the evolving, the change, and I keep on thinking, wouldn't it be wonderful if everybody would do this? As you lose, it's like losing a limb. You just find some other way of embracing life, and so let me give you a real quick history of my journey, how I got here. I started out as living in the Willamette Valley, born into a German-Norwegian hunting-gathering family. And I was the youngest son. And in Norwegian folklore, there's the folk tale of the Askeladden, the sensitive youngest son, the ash lad, the one that is mesmerized by the pulsating coals of the campfire. And that's me. I am so much that person. And we'd come over to the Metolius, or the Metolius Valley, and during hunting camp, maybe I'm 6 years old, I would just walk away. I was more mesmerized by nature, by birds, the sounds of things, the shapes of things. And I would just walk away from hunting camp. Go walk down a country road or a Forest Service road, and then after about maybe 10 minutes, I would hear Mom in the background saying, "Where's Gary? Where's Gary? He left camp again." And I would walk back, and Mom would scold me saying, "Don't you ever leave camp without telling us when and where you're going." But I never told her. So I'm very sorry, Mom. I'm sorry, I never did. All my life, I've never told people where I went because I wanted to get lost. I wanted to roam the world. And after that, I went through grade school and high school, and I was always an artist. I could always draw. Plus, I was an athlete. I could always hit a little ball on the ground with a stick in my hand and get to a little hole beyond my sight sooner than anybody else. Or I could, with a ball in my hand, knock 10 sticks down. That was like, it was easy. I don't know why, but. So through that, then right out of high school, I got a job as I'm trying to think of that period. Yes, I got a job as a graphic artist in Albany, and then for an advertising agency. And then I started my career as an artist, a professional artist, worked into graphic design, and moved to Portland in, I believe, 1972. And then I worked for a couple agencies, started my own design studio. Then in 1980, I did a very award-winning book on Mount St. Helens called Fire Mountain. And it's on permanent display at the American Institute of Graphic Arts in New York. By around 1982, I started gaining the royalties from the book. I started backing away from a design studio because I had my own design studio for a while. And the royalties allowed me to back away slowly and start traveling again. And I was traveling 7 to 8 months a year because I didn't know who I was in life. I just wanted to get back to roaming again, just like I was when I was a kid. And I started roaming the world. I would go into Powell's bookstore and just look in travel books, looking at faces, because I wasn't, I used to be a portrait painter, and I was mesmerized by the shape of someone's face. There was something, the landscape of the face was remarkable, the difference between each person. And so I would just start traveling a lot, going everywhere. But I was always coming back over here to the Metolius Basin. And I have always been caught, even though I was traveling to Mexico, Central America, the South Seas, I was always coming back here. I was always coming to Sisters. But primarily I was camping out in my Volkswagen Westphalia along Jack Creek or Canyon Creek or the Metolius. I was just mesmerized by the place. Then in 1995, on a photo trip to Rarotonga in the South Seas, my kidneys stopped functioning totally. And I got back on a Sunday. They threw me in the hospital on Monday. The doctor saying if I hadn't been in the hospital by Monday, I would have been dead by Tuesday. So I just dodged the bullet somehow. So I'm on dialysis from then on. And then my life of freedom stopped completely. I now was on dialysis 3 times a week for 4.5 hours. And it was such a shock to go from one extreme to another extreme. Then after 6 months, I have a very successful transplant from my sister, my lovely sister Judy. And then all of a sudden, I'm reborn. I'm living again, I'm traveling again, I'm back over, then I'm getting closer and closer to honing my love for the Metolius River Basin. So finally I decided to move here in 1999. I bought a kind of a luxury 5th-wheel trailer, put it in Camp Sherman, and spent a lot of devoted time, even though I was going to Mexico and going to Thailand and other places, I really was honing my skills on every single plant and rock and tree in that valley. So as then in 2002, I think that's about, from a little couple called the Rossettis, I bought Sisters Gallery and Frame Shop. And I started learning framing. I started exposing the community to my images that I've been shooting for many, many years. And then right around 2002, I noticed my eyesight just starting to fail. I noticed there was just a little bit of graying, but I wasn't taking it seriously. And let me back up. One thing is that in 1995, when they diagnosed me with kidney failure, and then in 96, when they had the workup for the transplant, they diagnosed me with pigment dispersion glaucoma, a rare form of inherited glaucoma. And so I just started losing eyesight. I didn't take it seriously, even though I was on eye drops, but I gradually started losing more and more eyesight. But it was slow, it's very insidious, the slowness of glaucoma sometimes. And then as I approached around 2008, 2009, it really started falling off the cliff. My eyesight, it was really becoming dramatic. And right at the perfect time of my life, I met Dennis and Helen Schmedling. They just, right at the perfect moment, they decided they would start taking over the gallery. And then I kind of fell into I started traveling, going to Thailand. I thought my life was over. I would never photograph it. Because I knew I was facing something tragic. And I was also told at that time that I should have a trabectolectomy, which is a rather major surgery on the eyes where they cut a slit on the top of the eyeball and they put a piece of skin over the top called a bleb that allows the pressures to burp out. And I was already on the highest amount of the strongest medicine you can give a glaucoma patient. And but I was fearful of that. And I waited too long. I allowed it. So I was so fearful of the surgery. It was the doctors were saying, you have to have that now, Gary. And I just couldn't believe. I was caught between fear of going blind, but fear of having a scalpel cut into my eye. But I waited another year, and finally I just said, please, please, let's have the surgery, because now I was really frightened. So we had the surgery, and it's taken a while, but now it's leveled out. You'd say it's still, I'm still losing eyesight a little bit each year, but at least it's slowed down. And so I'm more stable than I've ever been. So now that I've kind of given you, now I'm kind of at that stage today. I'm photographing still. I'm so much in love with nature now. As I work through this. I don't let it get me down. It's like I have a vendetta towards photographing. The nature is my home. I really need to stay in touch with it. And the more you love something, the more it's kind of like, I've just learned to adapt around this blindness. And I'll show you this kind of the tools I use. First of all, this is my camera. And I probably shouldn't get into too much detail about camera facts, because I don't think unless we were all photographers in the audience and want to know this stuff. But this is old, and most photographers, you want to know about digital cameras, and I'm sorry I can't help you on that, because I only shoot right now. I do have a small digital camera, and I would hope to someday afford a digital camera that could replace this, but for the time being, I'm shooting film, and then we have to go through the process of have to buy film, I shoot film, we process film, then it has to be scanned. And that's quite expensive, but at this stage I can't afford to replace it. But it's quite a quite a process. I enjoy the mechanical process of 4x5, which this is. This is considered a field camera, a folding field camera. Now again, I don't need to see it. I know the feel of this camera like the back of my hand. I've been using it for so many years. And it's only, you know, with a digital camera, you could say you have a manual this thick. All I have is basically just a couple things to operate with. And that's it. It's very simple. And and I think I could teach someone to master this camera in one day, if this is what they want to shoot. But if they think it's something that if they're interested in the complexities of digital, well, I think they should go towards digital. But let's say let me turn this. I have to go by feel, I'm sorry. And sometimes when I'm in the woods, I work very slow. So, and let's say I'm going to grab a lens. Now what I do, here's one thing I do. I have to put yellow dots on everything. And I never thought I'd fall in love with fluorescent yellow. I love fluorescent yellow. I put it on everything. And I'll just do this real. I don't want to, because it could take too long for me to go through this process, but I'll try and do it quickly to show what I go through. And there's, when I'm trying to do this quick again. I want to bore you. But this is what we call, in 4x5, you have, it's basically, all it is a lens, a bellows, and a film plate, or a glass plate. And this is called a reflex viewer. And if I were to look at the back of this, I can't see it now, but this is upside down. And what this does is put it right side up, even though it's backwards horizontally. And I use this mainly just for composition. And there's certain things that would take me, it takes me about a half an hour to photograph one shot. And I certainly won't take that time to show you, but there's just a few mechanical things on the lens that I have to operate. But I use this for composing. It's rather dark, and like I don't see anything because I'd have to, I would look through this, I can barely see it. But all I'm doing, just looking at the vagueness of the shot, because I can see a tree over here. I can't see the details in it, but I can sense it's there. And another thing I do when I'm shooting, when I see a scene, I'll walk up to it, and if I see a plant on the right, I'll walk close up to it, and I'll sense it. I can't see the sharpness of it, but I can get close to it and look at the side of my eye, and I can see the shape of the plant. I'll back away. Now I can't see it. There may be a tree over here. I'll walk over the tree, or a rock. Every time I walk away, I lose sight of it. Then what I do, I compose it in my head and stitch it like a quilt. Then I know right away what the scene looks like and what lens to use. Then I go through the process of figuring out position. Then I do critical composing through here. There's a little magnifier in here that allows me to see it a little bit better. Then once I have that, then I put the light meter, if I can find it. You always put, one thing about it, you always put everything back in the same place. And if you saw my trailer, it is amazing how I can go through any place in the trailer. And I know where everything's at, every spoon, every knife, everything. It's amazing where I know everything. But I was never that organized in my life. And now I'm organized. So I took blindness to allow me to be organized. And one thing about my trailer, that's quite humorous. What I've gone through, I've adapted the whole trailer. I've got like the edges of my nice oak cabinet drawers. I have gone through and shaped everything off. everything that's sharp is shaved off. I put rubber bumpers on everything that would hit me on my big head. And this has been hit many times. And so I'm always in a constant state of adapting. But once I stitch it together, the image, I photograph it, and I'll show you really quick if I can get in here. I have to wear sunglasses a lot because even this light really hurts my eyes. And then you basically have a film plate with 2 sheets of film. And my ears are so attuned, I can hear exactly when it clicks in place. And I feel it also, the vibration of it. And then all you do, you pull out you expose the film. This is your dark card. And then you always put it back with the dark side. After I've exposed, I put it back. Put it back in the camera and move on to another shot. So, and I love to be alone in the woods. It's something that I find my own natural gait of when I'm walking around. And yes, it's rather dangerous for me to be walking around, but I wear boots all the time because if I didn't, I'd be spraining my ankles every day because I can't see the stones. I do know the river very well. I know most every stone, but I do twist my ankles a lot. And so it's a lot of just accommodating. That's all I'm doing. And if it wasn't for my love of photography, I don't know how I would accommodate it. Because I love this too much to give it up. And now let me go through a couple other things I have learned in adapting is I live by what you learn is you find every little magnifying device you can find. And like this is 15 power loop. I cannot see, even in the back glass. Oh, I forgot one thing I have to show you. Which is, whenever you're once I find composition, just before I put the film in and shoot, I have to use a dark cloth. And I invented a dark cloth that happens to be a Sisters Coffee Company t-shirt. And I just realized, because one day I was out shooting and I forgot my very expensive dark cloth. And I was wearing a dark t-shirt. I was wearing this t-shirt. And I was walking along and I wanted to shoot. And I realized, oh, I don't have a dark cloth. And I had this t-shirt, so I pulled it over my head. And I'm sitting there bare-chested with this dark cloth over it. And I thought, wait a minute, the neck of it. The neck fits perfectly. And and you can put your arms in the holes. And I thought, oh, I should market this. Now, if film photography was more popular today, I would. But no, but this is the normal way you see me on Metolius is like this. I'm usually hiding underneath this. But this, I just had to show you this. My little Sisters Coffee Company dark cloth. So, but again, I have a lot. You find out all kinds of little magnifiers. Let's say one magnifier I use. This is when I'm out at, let's say, at Ray's. I know what type looks like. I can't read, but I know what something kind of says by memory. And since I know what the word dog says, if I see dog, I can't read it, but just by d, that, and o, and g, and then I go, oh, it's dog. But I can't read. Now, with voiceover, is anybody familiar with voiceover? No one is?
Not yet.
Oh, voiceover, this is the coolest thing since white bread for a blind person. Because voiceover is this iPad. Come on, please.
Voiceover on. Mail. Inbox. Hi everyone. This is Gary's voiceover voice. I read to him his emails and content in websites. Landscape. Message. Bye-bye.
And this is, I use this to research, to do everything. And
Tennessee Schmidlin, eCare customer
I have a lot of
support.
emails from Dennis.
Hotels and hotel booking requests.
Uh-oh.
Yes, I know.
For down to select a custom action. The voiceover on.
Dennis and I email a lot, and so do Sean and I a lot. And we'll go through a period where we go, stop it, we have to talk on the phone. We can't do this anymore. And email, but this is one of the neatest tools in the world for, is the assistance of VoiceOver. I don't use Siri, but I do use VoiceOver a lot. And it's just immeasurably powerful to help me. My life would be stopped almost without VoiceOver. And if you're not using it, find out it's really fun to use. I wish I could change your voice. I can change your voice into, I think, Australian English. There is an England English, but it's a man's voice, a very proper, older gentleman. And this is the normal voice for the normal American English voice. But I'd highly recommend that. It's just a hilarious thing. Let me see if I turned it off.
Yeah, you did.
Voiceover on. Mail. Voiceover off.
Then, I have lots of different types of, this is, I think, a 4-power pair of glasses. It's limited in what they can do for me, but I'd like to find some like 6 or 8 power glasses, so that at least it kind of replaces some of this, so I don't have to get, so this I'm forced to be very close. And same with if I'm typing on my iPad, I have to be very, very close and type with one finger in front of my magnifier. So it's very slow, but that's how I type. I have to memorize and keep track of my thoughts, because when you're going very slowly, one character at a time, you lose track of what you're trying to say. And then another thing, I use binoculars, because binoculars are, in some odd way, they haven't explained to you how it works, but these are fairly short focus binoculars, but if I picked out anybody in the audience, I could actually see you better, much better by using these, because it makes a certain area larger, but my target site is still the same size. So it's actually improving my eyesight. But I don't carry these around with me most of the time, because I don't really need to see that far out much. But I do use it when I'm photographing. If I can't see much beyond 30 feet, even though, again, I can't see it. I can only sense it. But at a certain distance, it's gone. Even peripheral vision doesn't help me. But this helps me view the distance if I'm composing and I want to use that distant area. If I want to know whether a group of trees are in good compositional shape, then I'll use this. And of course, you want to watch with big hands, with the fluorescent hands on it. I still have to use a magnifier to see it. But let's see, anything else? Pardon me, John. Oh yeah, my sticks. Fluorescent yellow. And then in Camp Sherman, everyone cares for me in Camp Sherman. They all are afraid that I'll get run over, so they keep on saying, Gary, you can't just walk down the middle of the street. And now I hear cars very well. I can hear them from a long distance, so it doesn't matter. I can walk down the middle of the street, but hear a car coming, and I'll move off to the side. And they told me that I have to wear these, and I do, and it pleases them. Now, some of my favorite. This is what I love to do. I've gone through many walking sticks. I love to find a piece of wood and hone it down. This is one of my first ones, and I've gotten very close to it, and I miss using it, but now I perfected it into other ones where knocking everything over. Let's see, this is one that I found, a couple years ago, but then I found this one out of aspen. It became my favorite of all, and I always cut them at head height, because if I'm looking at the ground, I can't see where my head's going. And I have to go through woods like this sometimes, because I can't see what's above my head. And I put reflectors on it. I just had this tennis racket store in the racket shop in Bend. I had this applied, a leather strap. And I live by these a lot. They're just like my tripods. I love them. So, well, I think, okay, so good. I think I'm kind of covered. Does anybody have any specific questions about glaucoma or photography or just blindness? Now, I forgot to mention, if you raise your hand, I can't see it. So if you do have a question, please speak up. But since no one has any questions,
I'm still here.
I have 15, lovely, go ahead and you can turn that.
What about your bike?
Oh, I forgot, God, it's out of my sight, that's why. How long ago did I buy that, Dennis? Was it 3 years ago?
3 years, yeah.
Yeah, I tried riding, it's about maybe 4 years ago, I tried riding on my mountain bike.
Crazy.
What?
Crazy.
Yes, I've been told I'm that way too often now, but I thought I could ride it was my road bike, that's what it was. And I packed it up, the panniers on the side, I packed it with camera gear and food. I was going to take off, go camping and photograph. And I got up the road around Camp Sherman and I fell so hard on the cement. I destroyed my arm and my leg, and I realized I can no longer ride a bicycle, just like I can no longer drive a car. That's way out of my range now. I had to sell my cars. But I knew I had to find something to transport me. And so I researched on the internet. I'd heard about three-wheel recumbent bicycles. And I went to Portland, tried out 2 different types. One's called a TAD, which is the 1 wheel in the back and 2 at your side. Then there's the Delta, which is 1 wheel way up front and 2 at your side. And I personally didn't like the stability, even though it was much more stable than a normal 2-wheel bicycle. And because you don't have to think quite so much about balance. But I'd heard about a 4-wheel quad cycle made by a company in Colorado called Lightspeed. And that's what that quad cycle outside is. That was the custom-made quad cycle that I had. I had the frame lengthened. I had a special yellow paint so I could see it. If I park it somewhere and I walk up to it, I can kind of see it out of the corner of my eye. And that's an amazing tool. That is, if you have anybody who has balance problems, who has physical handicap problems, that is an amazing machine, and highly recommend it. And if you have any question about recumbent 3-wheel or 4-wheel, please ask me, and I'll gladly give you information, especially on that one. So,
Gary, did you ski before you lost your vision?
yes.
Have you tried it since?
You know, I thought about that seriously because I think there's a way that I would be better than ever in skiing. Now, someone would have to point out, because just like on a bicycle or my quad cycle, I can't go very fast. Because now if it was a wide open, then I could probably do it, but I'd like to try it. And the same with golf. Now, I'm actually, I would need help following the ball, but I'm better at my how I'm hitting the ball than I ever have been, because I'm not using, your eyes get you in trouble in golf. You look too much at the ball. Now I just feel where the ball's at. I can go out in the woods and I'll take I used to do this for years. I would take my Volkswagen camper van with a chipping wedge and just spend days hitting pine cones, just perfecting my swing. And I can do it better than ever now, because I can go out, I can't really see it, but I know where the ground is exactly now. I know, and a lot of it is, golf is almost physical faith. You have to really believe you're going to get to that hole. If you fight it, that's where it destroys you. But if you believe in the hole, you have to know where it's at. And it's amazing how it helps you. And now I have to use more faith than ever. And I'd love to go bowling again, because I think I know exactly where they're at. Though it'd be terrible to find out that I didn't. So, yeah, right. Well, Gary's telling me, hey, they should do it for blind people, have blind night. Have bunkers where it doesn't matter, just throw it. But,
I know there's a program for blind skiers. A friend of mine who's a skier, once a year goes and helps the blind skier. I don't know the details of the program.
Is it hoodoo or bachelor?
Oregon Adaptive Ski Program teaches in both places, and we've got a couple folks here and sisters that are actually certified for coaching.
Oh, really? I'd love to try it. I think I would, it's another thing, I would like to, see, my attitude is that I'm not afraid of blindness. It's just a barrier to get around. And it's just, I will try anything as long as it's not deathly to me, but I'll challenge myself. And because there's almost a pleasure in being blind sometimes. As crazy as it is, I do find joy in it. And it's my own, it's kind of like I'm not, if I had good eyesight, I couldn't stand up here and talk to anybody. But since I can't see your faces, I can't really, and the eyes are what trouble us sometimes. And what makes you afraid, I think, of being in front of an audience. And it doesn't, I know I could kind of go, I think you're looking this direction. So I can't really, I have to, I can't, like if you had a beard, I'd have to walk up and go, you have a beard, I think. And see, I have to use the side of my eyes, my peripheral vision. But yeah, I'd love to try skiing. I think that would be a blast. As long as someone was trying to keep me alive.
Right.
So, well, I got about a 12.5-minute show of, I've hand-selected about 52 images, my best images of the Metolius River Basin. And I've created a show along with Sean and Dennis and Curtis. We've sculpted a show of sight and sound, 2 songs by Peter Cater and Carlos Nakai. And also, I forgot one thing, I believe, that I've gotten very good at is recording nature sounds. And this is a Zoom H2N recording. It records in stereo or quadraphonic. And I've got some lovely soundtracks of the Metolius River Basin. And we're only using a few, same with a few songs, but if you're ever interested in, I just finished publishing a CD of about 30 different cuts. Yes. And we have it on CD Baby, but we haven't done the hard copy yet. And you'll hear them in this show. So, Curtis, you want to warm that up? Or is it warm?
No,
We need about 30 seconds to warm up the projector. How about you, Sean? We'll give it about 30 seconds. It's called a Zoom H2N. And I've done a lot of research on recorders. And for about $180, you would not believe the quality. This is this is studio quality, broadcast quality, and it records in stereo an amazing high end of sound you'll hear. And it's a very and I've learned through I'll wear headphones and it's the same thing I do with my camera. I'll do with recording because I'm trying to find like that. To me, it's like having 1,000-piece orchestra, and I'm walking around trying to find the perfect place to sit. And I do the same thing with film, but with this, I'll walk around trying to find sound that is where there will be a burbling over here, a bird over here. There'll be some rushing water over here, wind over here, and I'll sit there and I'll position it until it's perfect, until it feels like audio art. Yes, it just helps you. Otherwise, you're not really hearing what's coming through the mics. But Zoom is fairly well known as a recording. They make the H4, H4n. There's some other ones that are made. One that has actually a camera on it too. But it's a great little tool. So,
I'm ready.
You ready?
I'm ready.
You ready? Okay, 3, 2, 1, go. last 3 black and whites were Jay Mathers. He has, for a show we did at KGW, he followed me around for about a year, I think. I think you're in the audience, Jay.
Yeah, I'm back here.
Okay.
No throwing apples.
Okay. But he followed me around. It was interesting to be photographing, a photographer photographing. And it's interesting to find someone that serious as a photographer to be with you, because I didn't feel like I was out of my zone. I could be in my zone because he was in his. And he's a pro. So, and I could sense that. So I didn't feel really intimidated at all by it. Because you want to capture the edge of it moving. But with moving water, you want to get the streak slightly. Now, if you shoot too long, it starts to streak too much, and then it becomes cotton candy. Some people like that, but what I want to do is show you what it looks like. Same way why I use so much depth of field. A lot of photographers will shoot a point that's in focus, it's out of focus in the background of the foreground. I don't want to choose what you want to look at. I want you to see what I want you to choose. So I want you to be able to see the tree at a mile away or right at my feet and everything in between. So you can see nature as I'm seeing it. Because I guess that I have this passion to show people what I'm seeing, and all I want to do, just like me, I'm finally getting comfortable standing up here, finally, because I've been very nervous, but fundamentally, I'm a person that just wants to turn around and go, do you see it too? Do you see it? Because I feel like there's something life-giving in nature that we gloss over. I feel like I find it. By getting lost in it, I feel like I'm finding the face of God or something. And it's something I desire to share with people. Yes, I'm a pro. I've been doing this for many years, and a lot of people like to match one of my photos to their couch. But that's okay. I have to keep the lights on. But ideally, I hope someone is captured by it. So if it's hanging in their living room wall or in their bedroom, every time they walk by, they see a little bit of themselves in it. And that's my desire. And but again, moving water, I tell other photographers also is that if you want to really, I give them how I shoot at. But the best way to learn is to set up a camera on a tripod and shoot multiple exposures from 1 second all the way to maybe a 60th of a second, and then you choose. I've just made my own choice.
Yeah.
But I can offer and teach that and give you my rules, but they're not meant for everybody.